Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode with my co-host, Carrie Bennett. We are really enjoying giving you this show and talking about these topics that seem really complex so that we can help them be a little bit more understandable to the everyday person. I just wanted to remind you to head down into the show notes to make sure you get my free resources and Carrie's free resources. We've both spent a lot of time compiling our favorite list of products, as well as how you can actually implement a lot of these things into your daily life for free using our guides. We also both have amazing courses that you have access to in the show notes as well. And we co-host a course together called Quantum Fertility. We've actually had some quantum fertility babies just born this summer, and we have several quantum fertility pregnancies going on right now where women were told that they were not going to get pregnant, and we have been able to show them the way using these circadian principles and quantum biology, and we're so grateful for this. So make sure you head down to the show notes, check out those resources, check out those courses. And if you are enjoying the show, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, leave us a comment. And if you're listening on the podcast app, please head on over to Apple or Spotify, leave us up to a 5-star review. Since we are such a brand new show, we want to make sure that we're getting this message out to as many people as possible. Again, we want to make these concepts of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable and applicable to the everyday person. We want you to pull up a chair, come hang out, and enjoy this conversation with me and Carrie, and have a fantastic day. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. Carrie and I are so excited to have you here today. Thank you for tuning in. And we were just chatting. It is mid-September. This will come out into September. And a lot of people are starting to think about fall and transitioning into fall, winter. We talk so much about how sunlight is healthy and good for us. And I think people start to understand that. And then it's like, okay, now it's fall, winter, we're going to have less sun. What do we do? How do we keep up all these great health benefits, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Those are the questions I'm definitely starting to get in my community. And so this will be a fun conversation, I think, because you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people assume that to have these quantum health strategies means simply getting into really intense sunlight all the time. And that's the only thing you do.
Yes.
And Sarah and I are going to talk with you about how you can actually utilize the fall and utilize the winter for healing and health, and how it doesn't necessarily rely on any devices per se, right? Like, and you can really get a benefit from that. So one thing though, too, great precursor to this would be the episode we did where we talked about melatonin.
Yes.
Because you're going to want to know why we refer to melatonin as being so healing, and making sure you're producing enough of it yourself, and why that's really what you want to take advantage of in the winter.
Yep, exactly. Again, summer is like vitamin D time, or hormone D.
Then sunlight. Yeah.
Yeah. Winter is melatonin, the season of melatonin.
Darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to start embracing it. And I think a lot of people like me, I used to suffer with seasonal affective disorder, like horrible depression and anxiety and weight gain and not feeling good during the winter, until I learned how to really embrace a lot of these principles.
Yep.
And I haven't dealt with it the last probably 3 years now. And last year I had a baby, and I was terrified because I'm like, I've had horrible postpartum depression with my daughter. This is going to happen with my son. And I stayed with these quantum principles, even having a newborn, and I didn't have that horrible seasonal affective disorder. So yeah, I think we got to talk about this for people.
Absolutely. Because I was the same way. I had one of those big old light panels on my desk, being in Michigan in the middle of winter, right? Like, I thought that was the only way I could possibly fend off the fatigue and the depression, and not the case. So
yeah.
So it's going to be exciting to share this with you. But I want to highlight, like, this is the perfect time of year to start embracing cold. Yes. Because this morning in Michigan, it was 50, right? Like nothing crazy by any means, but it's a significantly colder morning than what we have in the summer, which is typically, upper 60s, low 70s. And so So what does that mean? Well, it means that at the first sign of cold, we don't necessarily need to just bundle it right up. Like, I encourage clients in their normal sunrise routine or in their normal UVA routine to go outside wearing the same amount of clothing that they've been wearing in the summer.
Yep.
And because what happens is, this is the transition where we start to perceive cold, but it's not so intense that we have a nervous system or like this aversion to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as we adapt, just like we build a solar callus in the summertime or the spring into the summer to tolerate stronger and stronger sunlight on our skin, you have to build a cold callus as well, right? And what this cold callus is just teaching your body how to generate its own heat as soon as it starts to sense the cold and the need to do so.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we're so conditioned to like, oh, it's, 40 degrees, or even here, it's been in the 60s, which feels marvelous in the mornings. But yeah, you grab a little jacket or a little sweatshirt and still go outside, but try not to do that. Yeah, because you can actually cold adapt. And we talk so much about, cold adapting when we do cold therapy, cold thermogenesis, but we don't think about the natural cold adapting we can do in the environment in which we live in, because it's not typically going to go from, 95 degrees down to 32 degrees. And I'm talking Fahrenheit here, because I'm in America. I know we have a lot of, everyone outside of the US talks in Celsius, which I still don't get Celsious.
I'm so bad. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, I can't get the conversion.
It's so complicated for me. But anyway, the temperature doesn't have this drastic drop overnight typically. And so we do have September, October, parts of November, where it's not like bone chilling cold to be outside. And if we can do that, I see Becky Niles, she's one of the coaches in my community, and she's gone through all the quantum health courses. She posts on her Instagram every morning, and it's been in the 40s where she lives.
Who's just in my
Nebraska.
Q&A talking about that. Yeah, she's just like, still go outside.
Yeah, she's in her tank top and shorts in the 40s in Nebraska in the morning, getting her sunrise and grounding time. And I see her do it in the dead of winter too, in a tank top and shorts. And she doesn't cold plunge, but that's what she does. She just goes out and gets cold in the mornings, and that's her cold therapy.
It was how I got my mom into doing cold stuff, right? Yep. And so her routine, thank you, Mom, for following your routine. Her routine was has been like, okay, let me go sit on the deck at sunrise. And then basically the question was, well, what happens when it gets cold outside? And so 2 years ago, I gave her this exact same advice. It's just like, go out in your pajamas like you normally do. And if you can stay out for 10 seconds, great. If you can stay out for 20 or 2 minutes. So towards the end of winter, she's now to the point where she can stay out for 10 or 15 minutes in Michigan cold, which is chilly, in just her pajamas, because she's adapted to it. And it doesn't feel like a challenge to her at all. She's really recognizing then that translates to, oh, well, I don't have to hesitate and like almost be like, oh, I got to bundle up to get to the car to go to the grocery. Like that, you drop that, right? You're not concerned with being cold anymore because your body is just that much more efficient at heating itself up. And so we can really take advantage of how our natural environments are going to be lowering their temperature gradually over the course of the next couple of months in order to just be able to tolerate the cold of winter, and not just tolerate, but thrive. During the cold months of winter. And this is the time when I too, like Becky, like I stop cold plunging come October. Like October, I don't need it anymore, right? Like if I want to be cold, I open my windows, I don't wear a coat, I just let the natural ambient air come in. And while it's not the same as cold plunging, I find it actually better for me in the winter to get used to the cold air and tolerating longer periods of time in the cold air as just a means of not worrying about what it feels like for when the temperature changes come December, January, February.
Exactly. Yeah. And I still cold plunge because I'm in Georgia. So we do get cold here. I think people are surprised to see that it does get, pretty cold in Georgia. It can get into the teens, but usually not below the teens. Really doesn't get much below there, but still that's cold.
That's legit cold. That's legit cold.
Yeah. So I agree with you completely. And so I think that's one thing. And cold does so many great things for the body. because we talk so much about sunlight and how important it is. So it's really still important that you're getting outside for sunrise, getting those colors, getting those lights into your eyes to turn on cortisol, to turn on all those hormonal cascades that happen, neurotransmitter support that you get in that morning light. It's very, very important. And I think wearing blue blockers before sunrise, because it comes up a lot later for people, can be supportive, because again, we think about winter, it's the time for more melatonin. And so we don't want to be up, at 6 a.m. with all the bright overhead lights on and having this like these intense, just like running around the house and being stressed out and working out really hard. Like winter is not necessarily the time for that. What I try to do is put my blue blockers on, keep it low key, keep it chill in the mornings, go outside for sunrise, get cold, let my body kind of wake up that way when possible, because cortisol opposes melatonin. So if you're in the winter time trying to do all this high intensity interval training and, trying to keep your summer wake time and, the bright overhead light, all that stuff, I think that can disturb melatonin production. Would you say?
Yeah, it absolutely can. And I just think in general, I don't know, when I look at natural traditional cultures and populations that still live at one with their cold environment, it's not the same intensity of living, right? It's do I have enough firewood to cover the next few days, right? Do I have enough food to, and then there is a significant period of just calm and rest.
Yep.
And so, like you said, we have to just respect the natural ebb and flow that comes with that. And while our modern time construct and modern lighting and modern indoor temperatures can make us feel like we should be productive and energetic all year round, there's natural circadian cycles that we have to respect as well.
Yeah.
And so, honoring, just like I do, I don't worry as much about working out in the winter. Like you, yogi here, former personal trainer here, right? Like it's not that I don't respect exercise in all of its forms,
Yeah.
I mean, I loved teaching step aerobics back in the day, but that being said, I would much rather go on a winter hike in the woods as my winter movement and my winter exercise. Whereas in the middle of the summer, sure, I'm going to sprint up this hill and then maybe do some push-ups. And then I have a different rhythm to the intensity that I want to work out in the summer versus kind of still moving and still being active in the winter, but at a lower intensity.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we want to store up that vitamin D that we got in the summer, hopefully. And the more we're stressing our bodies out, the more we're like getting that cortisol going, I think the more it can actually impact the hormone D storage. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I've not looked into that too much, but I do think anything that drives up inflammation, I mean, vitamin D, right? So we have to look at it. You have to look at exercise as an inflammatory stimulus,
right?
In a good way, right? Though, I mean, it ultimately can be beneficial, but if it's overdone, sure, it could just add to the overall stress load or the inflammatory load of the body. So it's all about balance and just kind of honoring, asking your body, checking in with your body. Are you, maybe a lot of clients are like, well, I don't feel like working out first thing in the morning in the winter. It's so hard to get out of bed. It's like,
then don't.
It's sleep more, right? Maybe your body's telling you like that extra time sleeping is going to be what benefits you in the winter.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as you were saying earlier too, in terms of like the blue blockers and then the cold, I want to just reemphasize, going outside first thing in the morning is key, right? You'll get all the light. I don't know the number of times I know you get this comment too, but it's like, yeah, but it's dark and gray. It's gray.
Yeah, I live on the East Coast. It's very overcast and dark here.
Right.
You still get it. You still get what you need.
And I encourage anybody to kind of do just like this subjective experiment, go out, be in your house, kind of near a window, right? Near a window. Maybe you can even open the window if you want, and kind of soak in the intensity of the light there. And then on that cloudy day, actually go outside, and you're going to recognize the true difference in brightness that you're always going to get in an outdoor environment versus an indoor environment. And so what's lacking oftentimes in winter and why we feel those doldrums is we're just not getting that bright light stimulus that you're going to get on cloudy days in winter. Right. And you just go out consistently, and it's going to happen. All the cascades that we still talk about are relevant. And in fact, even more so, you want to go outside in the winter to do this, because you want to kickstart those pathways. It's really easy to kind of hunker down and ignore it and be like, it's the same. It's cloudy outside, it's cloudy inside, and that's not the case at all. You have to maintain a consistent routine even in winter.
Exactly. And a lot of people ask me, can I use a red light therapy panel as a substitute? And I'm like, because what is the thing that tells your body to start making cortisol? Blue light. Is there blue light with a red light panel? No. Is there? And if you are in your house and turning on blue light, is that the correct amount of blue light? It's going to be too much. The perfect amount of blue light for you to start your day and get all those systems going is going to be outside, even if it's cloudy, even if it's rainy, gross, like it's still there. Then if you want to come back inside afterwards and do some red light therapy, cool. But it's not a substitute, and it's not a replacement, because again, there's no blue light when you're doing a red light panel, and then the blue light overhead is too much. So the body is not stupid, and nature's not stupid either.
That's exactly right. And I get it. Like, it may be a lot easier to step outside with bare feet and pajamas in the middle of the summer to get sunrise versus in the middle of winter. Remove whatever barriers it is, right? Even if it means, okay, Carrie, I'm going to ignore everything you just said about getting adjusted to the cold. I want you to, above all else, I want you to go outside in the morning, right? Even if it means you're bundled up under a big old blanket, or you got your earmuffs on, your big old heavy boots on, you still need to go outside in the morning. And so that would probably be the most foundational practice you can do, especially if in the winter you have suffered from low energy, depression, fatigue, muscle, like just pain or lethargy, poor sleep, low mood. All of those things, I think, are going to be improved simply by getting the natural light signaling in the morning. And frankly, the research does show, right, that you could shine a bright old light panel into your eyes, and you can kind of kickstart those pathways. But it's by no means in the balance, like you said, the balanced light progression and the balanced signaling that you get from getting outside in natural light. And I ditched that light panel probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And I haven't thought anything of it, right? Because I love my morning time outside in the middle of winter.
Yeah. And that's a question I get often, is like, should I use one of those sad lights? I have one in my closet. I actually have never took it out of the box, because the same year I bought it is when I actually found all this quantum and circadian information. And so I was like, oh, I don't think I need this thing. So my thoughts on the box is, too much cortisol, inappropriate hormone signaling that can actually throw off circadian rhythms, can mess up melatonin signal pattern later, anything you're doing with your cortisol, because cortisol opposes melatonin, can impact your melatonin, can impact your sleep, can impact your recovery, autophagy, apoptosis, all that stuff. And so that's why I'm not a huge fan of the light boxes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I concur with all that stuff. Absolutely. When you can get it the correct way from nature, I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you'll get the same, if actually you'll get a much better benefit from going outside in the morning than you're going to get from that light box. The other thing in the winter, I think that's important to highlight too, is I talk about scarcity, which is a tough word for some people, right?
Yep.
But really, it would have been a period of scarcity of potentially certain food types, or when we were consuming food, and so if we were consuming food, right? And so not everyone necessarily is ready to fast more intensely in the winter, but I do think it's important to still stay within a circadian window of eating, which may mean finishing dinner at 4 or 5 p.m. if you can. Or frankly, in the winter, my metabolism has been trained that I really eat my breakfast around 8 or 9 sunrise-ish there. And I'm done at 3, right? I have a late lunch and I feel good. My body feels good about that. And then I've got that extra time of scarcity, darkness, melatonin, colder at night too, so that my body can optimize all of these repair and longevity pathways that utilize those signals, the scarcity, darkness, cold signaling pathways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, our bodies are meant to be more fat adapted in the winter, because I know people will hear this and they're not fat adapted, period. So your body is not essentially good at burning fat for fuel. You're only able to really burn glucose, which is, 90% of people, I'm going to say, maybe even more than that, really, are in that glucose burning metabolism. So it's something you do have to work up to. And this time of year right here, September, October, is a good time of year to start playing around with that a little bit and getting more metabolic flexibility, because we're supposed to have more, abundance in the summertime, all this harvest, amazing food. If you're leptin sensitive, which again, 90% of people are not, so they shouldn't really be eating that stuff anyway. But if we're speaking ancestrally and we're speaking about how to do this time of year is a time of year to kind of start playing around with getting more fat adapted, so that when it does come to be winter, doing something like not eating after 3 p.m. doesn't sound like the most outlandish thing in the world. Because when I talk about that, people literally get so offended and I can't, like, I have to eat before bed. I have to have a bedtime snack. I have to do, like, okay, like, you might have a leptin issue if you can't, go to sleep without eating first. It could be a leptin issue,
It absolutely could be, right? It's a leptin issue, a cortisol issue right in there, all of that stuff. Yeah. And so then that might not be for you, but I think a lot of people they fear that idea. For some reason, no one bats an eye at intermittent fasting and pushing your first meal from 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon until like 6 or 8, like you eat in that window. But for some reason, people freak out when you basically suggest the same window of time.
And it's the same thing. Yeah. Because everyone thinks I'm anti-fasting because I'm like, eat breakfast. I'm like, no, I actually think fasting can be really great.
Fast on the other end. Yeah. I just did a breakfast to breakfast fast, right?
Oh, nice.
So I fasted 24 hours. Now I'm metabolically flexible. I'm fat adapted. I'm leptin sensitive, right? Like I've worked on all of those things. Whereas 5 or 7 years ago, I would have been hangry after 2.5 hours and gotten an energy ball. I was really good at energy ball recipes,
Oh yeah.
And so, but that being said, like, no joke, after my breakfast, I wasn't hungry. Like, I don't want to put words in people's mouth who maybe have gone through this, but the hunger sensation never came about. Sometimes boredom comes about because you're just like, oh, it'd be nice to like, have that with my husband or, with my kids or something. But like, there was no cravings, there was no hunger. And so I gave my body the satiety signal. I'm fat adapted and have body fat that I'm able to then mobilize and utilize a healthy metabolism. And then I fueled it 24 hours later. It's a fun thing to do. And I would much rather people do fasting in that early window of time the next day, as opposed to pushing it way back, because that really can dysregulate cortisol. Yeah. That's where you really can just impair fasting's benefits, I think, from that upregulation.
I feel the same way. And I feel like we're kind of getting on a fasting tangent, but a lot of people ask me my thoughts on fasting and they're like, well, this doctor says, women can fast this way and they have all these stipulations for women. And I'm like, if they don't tell you to eat breakfast and do more of the breakfast to breakfast fasting, I still disagree with it. Like, not all of it, but I think that, again, that's a really quick way to start dysregulating cortisol if you're doing the breakfast skipping as a regular practice. For men too. It's not just the women. I've seen a lot of men, and Thomas DeLauer actually has been speaking out about this a little bit more.
Oh, interesting.
Because he's Mr. Keto and fasting. And just recently he's kind of come out and said, I messed up my hormones. I wasn't feeling good because every day I was skipping breakfast and I was doing keto 365 days a year. And I never did any carb cycling. I never would eat breakfast. And so now he's telling people to have more of a nuanced approach where, again, they eat breakfast, where they don't do the same fasting window every day. I think he'll probably still do some breakfast skipping, but I don't recommend that,
No, unless like honestly, it's maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I might do a 36 or 3-day
Yeah,
fast or something like that.
exactly.
Right. But like we're not
Yeah.
talking anytime regularly.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't think most people need that unless there's like maybe a cancer situation
Right.
or there's always an exception to the rule. And most people aren't dealing with that sort of thing. So they don't need to go that deep. And if they do want to do some fasting, I'm like, true, do a breakfast to breakfast fast. You know, if you want to do a 36-hour fast, you could do that once a month or so. Or, you know, you don't have
sure.
More fasting is not better. I think that's the problem that people.
That's how we get into because
Yeah.
here's the deal. I respect Jason Fung massively, right? Because he really made the thought of intermittent fasting not scary anymore.
Right.
I think part of it's his personality, part of it's how he delivers his beautiful talks and podcasts. But he also is running a clinic for people with some pretty severe diabetes or metabolic conditions, even cancers, right? And so yes, like Sarah's saying, like under a doctor's supervision, is there the potential to do it therapeutically like that and see some results? Yes.
Yeah.
But is it necessary? And is it
warranted?
Is it more imbalancing ultimately? Like someone like Thomas DeLauer found out, right? That to do it like really strict, hardcore 24/7, 365, like that, really intense. Whereas I'm finding an occasional 24-hour fast, once a month.
Yeah. Plenty.
Twice a month, maybe at the most. I can upregulate some benefits there. I can reset some dopamine receptors. I can support my insulin sensitivity. Like there's a lot of things I can do, and I don't have to do the exact same alternate day fasting, right? 24 hours on, 24 hours off, 24 hours on, 24 hours. It doesn't have to be that intense by any means. So less is more. But maybe now if you are fat adapted, it would be the time to hone in on a couple of 24-hour breakfast to breakfast fasts or a 36-hour fast, scattered throughout the winter as well, just to continue to upregulate those longevity pathways that are associated with that.
Exactly. So that's the food portion ish. I'm sure we'll probably get questions. We can talk more about winter food as we go through the season.
Because we're going to get the root vegetable and so we'll talk more about that.
Cellar stable foods, things like that, which we can definitely talk about, and doing some carb cycling in there too. Because I don't, unless you're very, very, very metabolically unhealthy, I think a lot of people can benefit from doing a little bit of carb cycling in there for, just for hormones. And I never thought that before until it happened to me. And then it started happening to a lot of my clients. I'm like, you're becoming metabolically inflexible the other way.
And no one talks about that.
Nobody, because it's so rare.
Absolutely, it happens.
Right. Oh yeah. It was rare. I said it's so rare, but it was rare because no one was really talking about keto and carnivore diets. And so it was like, oh no, that could never happen. But now a lot more people have their ears perked up about keto carnivore diets, which I think are fantastic.
Sure.
A lot of great benefits. But you can become metabolically inflexible the other way around. Yeah. I think it's a lot easier to fix though than it is to fix.
Sure.
It's not
carbs every once in a while.
Right. Just have the sweet potato. We're not telling you to go have like ice cream sundae or anything. If you really want to, go for it, but
no judgment. I just don't crave those things anymore. Those things
I don't either
cross my mind really.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. I mean, on the holidays, the last couple of years, I've just said, I'm going to eat whatever I want that's at the holiday dinner and enjoy a little dessert. And I did, and I was fine. It didn't ruin my mood or my energy, my sleep, anything like that. My body handled it and we moved on. Yeah. That was never the case for me before I did all this circadian biology stuff. It was like, I would have the holiday meal and then I'd have cravings the next day and the next week. And then it's like, I'm just giving into these cravings and eating all this crap. And then all of a sudden it's another holiday because it's,
and then you're like, screw it. New Year's resolutions are right around the corner. So I'll wait until after
the next 10 days. I'm just going to eat whatever I want and but I feel like even in the winter time, I'm getting that neurotransmitter support from morning light. That's so key for me. I'm getting the electrons still from grounding. I'm getting the cold, which is also producing energy in my body. All of those things combined, the morning light, the cold, the grounding that I'm still getting, all of that stuff. I don't have this like crazy need to binge on holiday cookies and crap. And I had that my whole life. So that's why I feel like this stuff is so powerful for people, because somebody like me can overcome this crazy, like, need to binge and eat crap all the time. I mean, it's like, it's doable.
It is. It actually, oddly enough, like I've had a couple of community members say like, what's the catch? Because this really, once you get into it, this really isn't hard. And I'm
right.
There is no catch.
Right.
No catch.
It's just the way we've been supposed to be doing
I
everything.
was clean plater club, right? I was the clean plater club. Gladly would have, like, and then like you said, my grandma's Christmas cookies, those chocolate chip ones were gone. Those were mine. But yeah, that's like, I still love my Uncle Greg's pumpkin pie, right? And then there's homemade cheesecake. Right? I love those things at Thanksgiving, but I don't think like it
doesn't linger on past the day.
It doesn't. That's so weird. I never really thought about that recently, but it really doesn't. You're just like, okay, take it then and then leave it.
It's gone. And like, what I used to do was have the holiday meal, and then I'd end up being at the grocery store and they've got the whatever cookies, or, I'm buying that and we're snacking on that, or it just doesn't, it's not really a thing anymore, which is nice. It's very nice to not have that noise in your head. So yeah.
And I think at some point, maybe not this conversation, but at some point, I think it would be really cool to talk about red light therapy in the winter, talk about sauna even in the winter, which sauna is a bit of a controversial topic in this quantum health sphere, right?
Is it really?
Yeah. Most people, a lot of people don't think it's necessary, or they're too high in non-native EMFs, or.
Oh yeah.
Listen, tell that to someone who actually lives in a really cold, dark winter environment, right? But like, no, a sauna is an absolute must for me.
I agree. I totally agree. And I don't live in a cold, dark area like you do, but I still live in, it can get cold, and it definitely gets dark here. And so, sauna is very key for me. And you could do stuff like taking a warm bath too. That creates infrared in the body. But maybe we can do another episode, like a winter part 2, and talk a little bit more about sauna, red light therapy,
infrared strategies.
Infrared strategies. Because cold actually makes infrared, right?
It does, right? Cold actually, that's how we learn to cold adapt, because we teach our mitochondria to make heat more efficiently for us in response to the cold. And so that is technically infrared therapy.
Exactly. So all those things. But and then maybe we can talk about this on this episode and kind of wrap it up. But I get this question a lot about vitamin D lamps, tanning beds, those things. What are your thoughts?
It's the rare instance that I feel like clients really benefit from those in the winter months. I think it's a circadian dysregulation still, right? And I really truly, I don't know if when people use those vitamin D lamps, I don't know if they're actually craving making vitamin D. I don't know if there's bodies like craving that.
It's just the light, the UV.
The UV, right? So I know one of our friends, Dr. Sarah, she's starting to play around with like UV black light bulbs. And I'm just wondering if like someone who's craving that ultraviolet just isn't getting outside in the UV window of time to get that natural signaling happening through the eyes. And so I typically try to encourage my clients to get out more. And that UVA window, you'll the best benefit is in the morning, but you'll get a benefit all day long, even through the eyes, right? So if they're experiencing the fact that they might want something like that, to try that first. My little Spurdy has just been sitting gathering dust here now. It's just but I'm not gonna lie, I do have a handful of clients scattered in northern latitudes who swear by either Spurdy or tanning. Fine, right? We will work around that, because I always want to respect when my clients resonate with the therapy and it makes them feel good. I always want to respect that and work within that if we can.
I'm going to try mine this year. I mean, last year I just didn't have time. I had a newborn. I was really busy. And so I did not have time to do any kind of Scarcity vitamin D lamp, but I'm thinking about pulling it out just because I've got Sarah, she's helping me out in my membership group, and her and I have been chatting a lot about vitamin D, people who go into winter sunlight deprived because maybe they just found all this information, and they have super, super low D levels, like, would it help them? Like, I feel like everybody's a little bit different, but I'm going to play around with it this year and see if I feel a difference or if I feel like it's disrupting my circadian rhythms, because
that'll be fascinating.
Yeah.
You'll get that nuance for sure.
I definitely will.
I'll be curious. So thank you. You can do that experiment.
Yeah. Cause last year it was just like cuddling around the fire with the baby. Like we had fireplace in the bedroom, a fireplace downstairs. And so I literally just had a new baby and we're like, near the fire.
Yeah.
That's what we did all winter. And I would do red light therapy when he napped. And we got our sauna last year in the winter. So I would do that, but I didn't do any Scarcity and I felt totally fine. I had tan lines still.
Yeah.
My tan lines I feel like they're permanent at this point because they're so dark this year. I'm like, I'm going to keep those till next year.
I do. I feel like I still maintain, but if you, if the cold exposure also helps you maintain melanin levels, right? And so I think that's part of it as well. You maintain your own endogenous melanin production, specifically also the neuromelanin. And so I don't know, there's something to be said about getting out in that cold and those benefits as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have you heard of Nigel? One of my community members was talking about, showed me this. Have you heard of the Chroma D-light?
I saw Cruz put that on his page the other day.
Interesting. I have not seen that. Okay.
Yeah. That's where, let me see if I can pull it up because I know it's on Cruz's Instagram here. Where is it? It's called a D-light, vitamin D light device.
Got 4 wavelengths of red, deep red and near infrared.
Yeah, it's got, vitamin D. It's LED vitamin D light with UVB plus red plus deep red plus near infrared. So
interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? I would almost want one of these. I don't know. Like
they're $749. Yep. And I guess Mike Shapiro, Chapiro, is the one who put these out. So
interesting. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. If people get it, it'll be interesting to see, if they, respond to it and how that feels. And
definitely.
I'm of the opinion I would actually rather try to potentially hack it a Dr. Sarah's way with UV lights, so like black lights, right? UV lights.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. She's using the Scarcity too. Her and I were actually just chatting like right before we jumped onto the podcast because I wanted to know her thoughts on it. I'm like, because she lives in the UK, which is even
less, even way further north latitude than me.
Yeah, she's about to lose vitamin D entirely in about 2 weeks, and I get it here all winter. I mean, we still get it because I'm in Atlanta. Now you have to lay out there for 6 hours in order to make any.
Make it in direct sunlight.
Yeah, which I do. That's what I was doing right before we hopped on this call. My family's used to it right now. Mom's on the decks naked again. All right. Because we've got a great yard for naked sunbathing. I didn't have that at my last house. So I just look out on the deck. There's mom. Probably when my son gets a little bit older, I'll have to stop doing that or like find a different area.
There's going to come that time when
my husband and my daughter are just like whatever. But yeah, my son probably, you probably need to not do that around him. But I tell you, that has helped my health this summer more than anything. I've had a lot of stress going on, and give me 15 minutes of naked sunbathing. That's all I need, grounded. And I am okay. I am not going to fall apart.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. That's huge. It really is huge.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be curious. This will be fun. And I hope people also hear in this conversation the fact that there's no one perfect way to do this.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, right. There's so Sarah's going to try the Scarcity, right? And Dr. Sarah's going to try the Scarcity this summer. And I'm not going to try the Scarcity this summer. And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like we can kind of figure out navigate what works best for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also experiment. Like you can experiment and say, let me do this for 3 weeks and see if I notice a difference.
How my sleep is my HRV changed?
My subjective energy, any difference in cravings for more sweeter foods, like just like, is it shifting things, differently?
Yeah. That's a lot of interesting stuff to pay attention to.
It really is, know, and then, but if you notice like, wow, I look forward to that and I feel flipping amazing after doing it, just kind of like you were describing the naked sunbathing, then why not? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I did it during my pregnancy because I was so concerned about keeping up my vitamin D levels for pregnancy. And they're like, you got to supplement. And I was like, nope, not doing that. And so I was really, really consistent with my Scarcity during the winter time because I got pregnant in January. And so I kept going. And I remember I tested my D levels in March before I was able to start laying out, and they were at like a 60. And I was like, my doctor was like, great job on your supplementation. I'm like, not doing that actually. So it did work to help me maintain those levels throughout the winter. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be very interesting. And I would love it if when you tested your D, I would love for you to test the 25 and the 125.
Oh yeah, the 125. There's a panel. You can do that now. Someone in my, you can order your own. Someone in my community, I think, has posted that the other day you can order your own full vitamin D panel now.
Oh, I wonder what that entails. Is it just those two numbers? Or
there was more. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, send it my way.
I'll have to look I'll look for the post and see if I can find it. Cause she was going to get like a full panel of a bunch of stuff done. It's like a full vitamin D panel. So
cool.
And I think it was Ulta Labs. I'm not sure.
Oh, I've heard of Ulta before. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's Ulta is where she got it from. So if anyone's listening.
It'd be interesting. Like, I want to start really making some clinical connections with this, like all of the ways that if there's multiple patterns that you can see with how vitamin D shifts in the winter. Do you have a diagnosed disease that might be pulling you to more active vitamin D levels versus low storage? It might be fun to experiment, right? Just kind of play around and see what trends we can see, what data we can gather.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anything else you want to add to this episode? We'll get more. And I know I got a comment on YouTube the other day from my YouTube channel, because I guess we haven't been looking at the Quantum Conversations YouTube, and they're like, please go through your questions on YouTube. Like, okay, maybe we'll do an episode where we just go through questions from the Quantum Conversations YouTube channel and look at some of those. And
that's a fun one. And
answer those. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. We'll have to plan on that. So
cool. We'll do it. Okay. Be patient. We'll for sure do that.
Yeah, we will. Just bear with us.
And keep posting those questions.
Yeah, we got a lot of balls in the air, but we'll take a look at those for sure. And thank you for listening, everyone.